Atari 2600. Introduction. The Atari 2600, originally known as the Atari Video Computer System (VCS), is an iconic home video game console that played a pivotal role in the history of gaming. The Atari 2600 was introduced by Atari Incorporated in 1977. It was designed as a follow-up to the company's successful arcade games and was Atari's first foray into the home video game market. The console was originally priced at $199, and it came bundled with a joystick controller and a pair of paddle controllers. Mechanical specification. The Atari 2600, also known as the Atari Video Computer System (VCS), had relatively modest hardware specifications compared to modern gaming systems. Here are some of its key mechanical specifications. Central Processing Unit (CPU). The Atari 2600 used an 8-bit MOS technology 6507 microprocessor, which was a cost-reduced version of the more common 6502 CPU. The CPU operated at approximately 1.19 MHz NTSC version, or 0.98 MHz PAL version. Memory. RAM. The system had 128 bytes of RAM for temporary storage and game variables. ROM, game cartridges contained the program code and additional read-only memory, ROM, for graphics and sound data. The size of the ROM varied from game to game. Graphics. Graphics resolution. The Atari 2600 supported a display resolution of 160 pixels wide by 192 pixels tall. Colors. It could display a limited color palette, typically consisting of 2 colors for each player and 2 colors for the background. Sound. The Atari 2600 had a built-in sound chip capable of producing simple audio effects and tones. The sound capabilities were relatively basic, resulting in the characteristic beeps and simple sound effects heard in many games. Controllers. The system came with a joystick controller featuring a single joystick for directional control and one button. It also had paddle controllers for games that required precise rotary control. Cartridge slot. The Atari 2600 featured a cartridge slot for game cartridges. These cartridges contained the game program, graphics, and sound data. Output. The system connected to a television using an RF switchbox or an RCA composite video cable. It typically displayed games in monochrome, black and white, but could be used with color TVs for added visual variety. Power. The Atari 2600 was powered by an external power supply. Physical dimensions. The console itself had dimensions of approximately 14 by 11 by 3 inches, 35.6 by 27.9 by 7.6 centimeters. The joystick controllers were connected to the console via detachable cables. It's important to note that the Atari 2600's hardware limitations were quite restrictive compared to modern gaming systems. Nevertheless, its simplicity and flexibility allowed game developers to create a wide variety of games, and many classic titles from this era are still fondly remembered by gamers today. Bundle of games. 1. Pac-Man. The Atari 2600 version of this classic arcade game, while not as faithful to the arcade original due to hardware limitations, was highly popular. 2. Space Invaders, an excellent port of the popular arcade game, where players defended Earth from an alien invasion. 3. Asteroids, a space shooter where players controlled a spaceship and blasted asteroids into smaller pieces. 4. Pitfall, a platformer that was one of the best-selling and most iconic games on the Atari 2600. Players controlled an adventurer named Pitfall Harry. 5. Adventure, a pioneering action-adventure game that featured a player named Protagonist on a quest to retrieve a magical chalice. 6. Combat, a 2-player tank battle game that came bundled with many Atari 2600 consoles. 7. River Raid, a scrolling shooter game where players piloted a fighter jet through various terrains. 8. Yar's Revenge, a unique shooter game where players controlled a yar, a strange insect-like creature, in a quest to destroy the evil Kotal. 9. Missile Command, a game where players had to defend cities from incoming missile attacks. 10. Breakout, an arcade classic where players controlled a paddle to bounce a ball and break rows of bricks. 11. Adventure, an early action-adventure game that is notable for introducing the idea of hidden Easter eggs in video games. 12. Pitfall 2, Lost Caverns, the sequel to Pitfall, which expanded on the original with larger environments and more varied gameplay. Success behind Atari 2600. 1. Pioneering innovation, the Atari 2600 was one of the first home video game consoles to use interchangeable game cartridges. This innovation allowed players to expand their game library without purchasing an entirely new system. The concept of swappable cartridges was groundbreaking and became a standard feature in the gaming industry. 2. Strong game library. Atari had a strong lineup of games for the 2600, including arcade hits like Space Invaders, Pac-Man, and Asteroids. These titles were adaptations of popular arcade games, and their familiarity helped attract players. 3. Marketing and branding. Atari invested heavily in marketing the 2600, creating a memorable advertising campaign and promoting it as the ultimate home entertainment system. The catchy slogan, "Have you played Atari today?" became well known. For retail presence, the Atari 2600 was widely available in retail stores, making it easily accessible to consumers. This widespread distribution contributed to its success. 5. Third-party developers. Atari's decision to allow third-party game developers to create games for the 2600 expanded its game library even further. This open approach attracted developers and led to a diverse range of games. 6. Affordable price. The Atari 2600 was relatively affordable, making it an attractive option for families and gamers. 7. Add-ons and accessories. Atari introduced peripherals like the Atari 2600 keyboard controller and the Atari 2600 Kids controller, which expanded gameplay possibilities and appealed to a broader audience. 8. Exclusive titles. Atari secured exclusive rights to certain arcade games, giving the 2600 versions of these games an edge in the market. 9. Cultural impact. The Atari 2600 played a significant role in popularizing video gaming and was a cultural phenomenon in the late 1970s and early 1980s. It became a must-have item for many households. 10. Longevity. The Atari 2600 remained in production for over a decade, continuing to sell well even as more advanced systems entered the market. Its longevity helped it maintain a strong presence in the gaming industry. Downfall Atari 2600. 1. Market saturation. By the early 1980s, there were many video game consoles and home computers on the market, leading to a saturation of gaming options. This made it difficult for any single console to stand out. 2. Quality issues. A flood of low-quality and poorly designed games flooded the market. Many of these games were rushed to production, resulting in a glut of subpar titles. 3. Competition. The release of more powerful gaming systems such as the ColecoVision and Intellivision provided stiff competition to the Atari 2600. 4. Lack of consumer confidence. Due to the abundance of low-quality games, consumers lost confidence in the quality and value of video games. This led to a decline in sales and consumer interest. 5. E.T. the Extraterrestrial. The release of the Atari 2600 game based on the movie E.T. the Extraterrestrial is often cited as a significant factor in the crash. The game was poorly received due to rushed development and quality issues, leading to significant financial losses for Atari. 6. Overproduction. Atari overproduced both consoles and game cartridges, leading to a surplus of inventory that couldn't be sold. 7. Retailer resistance. Retailers were left with excess inventory and started to refuse to carry more video game products, further exacerbating the industry's problems. 8. Bankruptcy. Due to these issues, Atari suffered severe financial losses, leading to the sale of the company and eventual bankruptcy of its parent company, Warner Communications. Thanks for watching.